Let's spend a few minutes on this lecture talking about job satisfaction, organizational commitment, and persuasion. If we look at job satisfaction, we see that as pleasurable or positive emotional state resulting from the appraisal of one's job or job experiences. Now, the contributing factors to that is challenging work, valued rewards, opportunities for an advancement, competent supervision, and supportive coworkers. And what measures that is the Job Descriptive Index, or the JDI. It measures specific facets of satisfaction. And I'll have students ask me a lot of times, why is it important for job satisfaction? Well, we want people to be satisfied in their jobs. And with that, there just comes a host of benefits that we'll talk about, but the main thing is keeping people engaged, keeping them committed, and especially at this point in time when the unemployment rate is so low, we want to keep our good employees and keep them in the job, and we don't want situations happen where people become bored in their jobs, because at that point in time, that's when accidents can happen. And that's when we don't get the best work out of people. They'll do other activities to relieve that boredom in that state. So if we look at work attitudes, we look at the organizational citizenship behavior, and that's OCB. These are the people that go above and beyond the call of duty. And we all have people that we've worked with, and maybe you're that type of person that's always there. They'll be there if they need to be there. They'll take care of other employees. They'll, come in when somebody else is absent and take up their responsibility. It's observed in satisfied workers. So you want satisfied workers because they're the people that buy into what you're selling. It results in lower turnover, higher productivity rates at the organizational level. So you want people invested in your company. You want people that want to work there. Because the counterproductive work behavior, or CWB, that violates organizational norms and causes harm to the organization and our employees. And I know years ago, I worked before coming back to Union as the Employee Assistance Program and worked in that. And just more accidents happen where people get bored or people do counterproductive work. A lot of it involving forklifts for some reason, and accidents happen. So we know that it causes negative events in the business. So you encourage positive attitude to tackle that CWB. And then organizational commitment, the strength of an individual's identification with the organization. And that comes through effective commitment. That's based on the individual's desire to remain in an organization. It encompasses loyalty, deep concern for the organization, and the welfare of that organization. And that's a tough thing a lot of times for companies today, to get people that are committed to them. Again, with the unemployment rate so low, it's people can jump and they can go someplace else because someplace else is going to pay them a little bit more. On the other side, you have continuance commitment. That occurs when an individual can't afford to leave. Maybe they've reached a certain level of compensation to where they're stuck there. So they can't, or they're in a situation where they're taking care of a loved one. Something is going on, but they just can't afford to leave. And then there's normative commitment. It's based on the individual's perceived obligation to remain with the organization. Maybe they just feel like they should stay, that if they left, that there would be horrible ramifications if they decided to leave. Let's talk a little bit about the persuasion process that goes on and characteristics of that. The source of persuasion is expertise, trustworthiness, and attractiveness. Attractiveness comes back up in a lot of different areas of how attractive it is to that person. And then the target, the level of the self-esteem and the mood. And then just the message itself. It's the approach used and the emotional tone of the voice. Are you selling it in a way that people are going to believe it and people want to buy into what you're asking them to do. Let's look at the elaboration likelihood at the model of persuasion. And I like how this is laid out. You see the message. You either have the central route, and that's the ideal one, or the peripheral route. The peripheral is not so good. So if you've got the message and you've got, let's take the peripheral route first. You have low elaboration. You don't really have any buy-in to it. You're not selling a vision to anyone. And the absence of careful processing is there. And then that attitude change depending on the source characteristics or non-substantial aspects of the message. So the message isn't working real well. You're not being very persuasive. So for a message to be persuasive with the central route is high elaboration. Talk it up, make it sound good, have careful processing with it. And then the attitude will change depending on the quality of the argument. All right, that wraps up a short little lecture there. And next we're going to move into moods and talk about emotions.